Hi, this is Michael Schenker. You're listening to Sonic Perspectives, USA.
They say you are wanted. You're a one man. Come and sign a paper. Let me count you in. Well, it looks like.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another interview of Sonic Perspectives. I'm Rodrigo, and our guest today is guitar extraordinaire Michael Schenker. Michael, great to have you here with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, let's talk about your new album, Immortal. Give us your thoughts on the album if you can, like a general overview.
Overview, okay. It's a long story. Well, actually, in 2019, I realized that the 50th Michael Schenker anniversary was coming up. My first recording ever. And I wanted to celebrate this with musicians, fans, and friends from all over the world. And it was just kind of dragging on and on and on. And eventually, I thought this could not be released in 2020. I go by the first note I put on a recording. And that was in 1970 when I was 15 years old. And so I actually gave up because I thought it could not be released in 2020. And then my agent told me that, but Michael, the album Lonesome Crow Scorpions came out in 72. And so I said, so I have 2 years. And so I had hope again. And but this time I decided, well, let's put together a compact band,
Right.
to make it less complicated. And so, I asked Ronnie Romero, and he was in. Bodo Shop was in already, Steve Mann, and then Barry Sparks kept emailing me, hey, Michael, I want to be your bass player. I said, you got it. And so I had a band, and I actually was happy with the lineup. And then I actually went to the 70,000 tons of metal cruise and ended up in a hotel in Miami 4 days and started writing my songs in early 2020. And after the cruise, and then went to the UK, carried on, completed my musical compositions, and I was ready to go. And then I saw on the TV screen that there was a problem, and the problem was the virus.
Yeah.
So when I checked on my routing, I usually go by car via Eurochannel, France, Belgium, Holland, and then to Germany to Michael Foster's recording studio, my co-producer, and but I couldn't go that way, and so I had to look for another way, and we found that I live in the UK, from Brighton to Harwich, and taking a boat for sleeping on there for 7 hours, and then carry on through Holland. Holland wasn't a problem, and then made it to Germany.
Wow.
Put down my backing. Yeah, and put down my backing tracks and my compositions, and I actually had to do this journey 4 times. It wasn't just it was just not just for the recording of the backing tracks, but like I had to come back again and again for singles and video and all sorts of things. And every time I came back to the UK, I had to go on 14 days quarantine, except for one time. And so actually 3 times 14 totals 42 days quarantine, which was, but not in one go, 14 days at the time. And, but, it's my anniversary. And so I thought, I better sacrifice, and I actually did that happily. And otherwise, this album would have never happened in the first place. And so by the time we got to the point of having Ronnie, the compact band idea, having Ronnie Romero start singing, we called him up and he said, "Oh, sorry, I can't come. I'm in Bulgaria. I'm locked up. I can't afford to go on 14 days quarantine. I've commitments, etc." Okay, we said, "Don't worry, we call you back. We think of a solution." And my partner Amy, she's a bass player, and she has a very good taste, and she's a music consumer. I haven't been listening to music for 50 years, so I don't know what's out there. And I asked her, "Hey, listen, we are stuck with Ronnie. Can you think of a singer?" She said immediately, like, Ralf Scheepers. And I said, "Okay, I trust you." I said to Michael Voss, "What do you think of Ralf?" Absolutely. And the next day they were recording, and then they recorded another song. I mean, wow, this is amazing. And then at the same time, Brian Tichy, one of the best drummers in the world, who played with Whitesnake and OZZY, etc., who's a Michael Schenker fan, called up Michael Voss and said, "Well, I heard about the 50th anniversary. I offer 6 drum tracks." I said, "What?" I was absolutely shocked. Then she calls Michael Voss again and says, "A buddy of mine, he also is a fan. He wants to make a contribution on keyboards." I said to Michael Voss, "Well, what are we going to do with a heavy-duty keyboard player like Derek from Dream Theater?" I never heard him play, or I just knew that he was a top-notch, top 10 keyboard player. And Michael Voss said, "Why don't you do a guitar keyboard jam?" I said, "Guitar keyboard jam? I've never done something like that before." And he said, like, "Well, maybe it's a great idea to do something new, fresh, for the fans, for the 50th anniversary, something you have never done before." And I said to him, "You mean like John Lord and Richie Blackmore?" He said, "Yeah, something like that, And I said, "Actually, you're right, I actually got excited, and I went like, man, this is a great idea, to do something that I've never done before, especially for this." And so at the end, that became Drill to Kill. When I heard Ralf Scheepers' voice, I was blown away. I didn't even know there was a vocal like this on this planet. And Brian Tichy's drums and Derek's jam with my guitar was phenomenal, and so I was so happy. And then that was 2 less songs for a compact idea for Ronnie as a singer. And so we called Ronnie again. "Hey, Ronnie, are you ready?" We're ready for the next song, and he said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm still locked up here. I can't go on 14 days quarantine." "Okay, Ronnie, don't worry, we'll call you back. We'll think of a solution." And so I said to Michael Voss, what can we do? And he said, "Well, what do you think of Joe Lynn Turner?" I said, "Joe Lynn Turner, one of my favorite singers. Yeah, he's a fan. I'm a fan. I mean, do you have a contact to him?" Absolutely. The next day they're recording and another song. I said, "This is unbelievable." What I tried to put together in the beginning by myself with musicians, fans, and friends, that didn't happen and couldn't happen because it was so difficult. And then having a compact band, all of a sudden, all the phone calls were coming in. Everything happened by itself. And then one morning, I came back from the hotel, and one of the compositions was a power ballad. I've never done a power ballad like that before. I don't know where it came from. It just showed up in my compositions, And so Michael said, he always writes the B plan for singers just in case they get lost or need some help. After all, he's a co-producer and he's a singer himself, etc. Great one too. And he said, Michael, this is what I did last night to your power ballad. And I listened to it and I said, Michael, this is so beautiful. Only you can sing this. You got this song. And then there was another song, which was actually a very unusual song, the Queen of Thorns and Roses. And what he was doing to it vocally was just like, I said to him, I can't imagine anybody else doing it. You have to take those two songs. And so there was 6 songs less for Ronnie. And then eventually Ronnie Romero was available, and then of course he did a fantastic job on Night of the Dead and the Sail the Darkness and Come On Over and In Search of the Peace of Mind. And then there is a bonus track that probably nobody has heard. It's 11th song that we may be using for tour promotion or for a single. It's a great song with Brian Tichy playing on it as well. And so we had all of that going, and then of course there was In Search of the Peace of Mind, which was the very, very first piece of music I've ever written. I was 15 years old. I did it in my mother's kitchen all by myself. There was nobody there. For some reason, the Scorpions credited themselves as writers. And, I was 15. They were already 21. They were businessmen. I was just a kid in the sandbox. And then Michael Forrest sent me the original credits to Lonesome Crow Scorpions album, and it says Michael Schenker lyrics, Rudolf Schenker lyrics. Rudolf and Michael had zero knowledge English. How could we have written any lyrics? and it was complete misinformation. And it should have said music by Michael Schenker and lyrics whoever did it. And then on top of that song became In Search of the Peace of Mind. The title became the theme of my life. Looking for contentment, fulfillment, and peace, etc., etc. And then there was a lead break I played on that song, which was actually on that composition that was actually quite complex. Even Rudolf, my brother, he still can't play it. It involves double picking, and so it was like there was a solo I played on there as a 15-year-old that was so perfect I would never change a note in 1,000 years, like Stairway to Heaven or the theme of the Imaginary Western. There's nothing wrong with it. You will never have to change anything. I was wondering, where did this lead break come from? I was only 15 years old. You can hear on the Rest on Lonesome Crow, the Scorpions album, that I am a teenager. I'm developing. I'm an amateur. You can hear on my guitar playing that I'm developing, but why was that lead break so perfect? So altogether, if you put it all together, it had to become, being also the first note I was ever putting on a record, It had to become the celebration song for the 50th anniversary. and I wanted to make it special, and I wanted to make it an epic, and so I added guitar on the end, lots of guitar, and I wanted to use as much as emotion as possible, and different ways of expressing. And I had the howler, which is an invention of mine, and I had the low bending strings, and you know, like all sorts of different emotions, as many as I could think of. And when I was actually listening back to it, it felt like it sounded like question and answer between two guitars,
right.
Like an inner conversation. You know, like we all have inner conversations, like, shall I go this way or that way, or make choices, you know, in any direction. And so when I actually listen back to it, it sounds like, you know, I'm expressing my 50 years on lead guitar, with all the emotions, dramas, and crises, and happy times, and sweet times, and, you know, whatever. And it sounded like questioning and answer, you know, and I don't know where that came from either, because it just came up just like that first lead break. So to me, it's like, wow, I mean, what is this? Is this a coincidence or what? You know, and I look at it as a gift from heaven, you know, saying like, Michael, this is what we give to you as a present for staying true to yourself for so many years, and this is what we give you, and that's how I really feel about it. And the whole album, it's just like something I couldn't put together myself. All happened by itself, and it turned out so much better than I could ever imagine doing myself.
Wow.
Honestly, it's unbelievable.
That's great to hear. Great to hear. And 50 years of career and almost as many studio albums, or maybe even more than that. But do you sometimes stop and reflect about everything you went through all those years, and maybe you would consider telling that in a book or not?
No. I think books are cheap, you know, most of the time. I mean, if you think about it, anybody can write a book. You can write a book. You can tell the truth. You can make up stories, you know. And of course, the people who always take from the trend, who want to become famous and successful and millionaires, etc., you know, they want a piece of the pie. It's this, you know, the 80s are watered down, 70s commercialized for the stereotype, and it makes a lot of money for the business people. And so people usually go to the trend, take a piece of the pie, and want to become part of the present success. I never did that. I was the kid in the sandbox, always, you know, never competing, just playing. Play and discover, having fun, just playing and not comparing, not looking for fame or looking for anything, just having fun with putting three notes together, creating goose pimples. You know, I mean, that is who I am, and I actually discovered very early in life. The spring of infinite creativity, you know. So at some point, at around 15, I think it started to trickle in, and then over the years, like 16, 17, 18, you know, I kind of got to the point, you know, like, well, you know, why? I mean, I got so much inspiration from Jeff Beck, Jimmy Page, and all of these great guitarists from the 60s. You know, why should I do something Jeff Beck is doing? He's already doing it. Why am I doing it? You know, I mean, I really felt that I wanted to be myself, Michael Schenker. I had taken, since I was 9 years old, I was playing guitar. I copied from the radio, Hit Parade, and the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, and whatever was out there. And so at that point, I came to 14 years old, and I'm a Zeppelin fan, a Black Sabbath fan, Deep Purple fan. That's where. What really, when I was 14 years old, was actually kicking me into a new direction. And that came from that metal music, as I call it at the time. And it came from Zeppelin, Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, etc., Rory Gallagher, Johnny Winter, Leslie West, you name it. All the 60s great guitarists. Right. And so I kind of said to myself, I want to be myself. And so that's what I did. I discovered the infinite inner spring of creativity, and I since then I took from there, and I actually already started as a 15-year-old, and that's why Kirk Hammet and people, which I never knew until later in my life, many years later. I'm glad I never heard about it, because I never had expectation. I never, look, when I heard about those guys, Slash and James Hetfield and so on, being Michael Schenker fans, it was just like, what? You must be joking. It was just incredible. And so, I just carried on being in the now, being Michael, having fun in the sandbox, and play, just enjoy playing. And as a result of that, what came out of me was something that Kirk, for instance, Kirk Hammett had never heard before, or David Mustaine, or people like that, and I mean, when I heard that later, what they were expressing about my guitar playing, I realized, it's because I was being Michael Schenker, and then automatically I developed a unique style. Then the Flying V came to me. I never looked for the Flying V. I never looked for physical attraction like that. My guitar was locked away with the Les Paul I was playing at the time, and then I had to play the Flying V, only guitar available, in order not to cancel the concert. And when I had the guitar on and plugged it into my amp, and with the sound and discovering the what I can do with that guitar because of its shape, locking it in between my legs, I created a heavy vibrato, and so, like, everything in my life is based on circumstances. It's never really calculated. It's just like the position. People used to say, Michael, you look like you're going to the toilet, playing the Flying V. And I said, well, but I have to stand like that because I have this technique with a vibrato and the V shape, and so I created an icon, a position that people may have thought I kind of looked for that kind of a look, but there is a reason behind it, and so everything I do has a reason, and it's never about posing or anything, but it's just like it's about what can I do with the present moment, and and the Flying V gave me that opportunity to create what then became a metal icon, and the people that copied what I did in the 80s. They never heard anything like that before, and of course not, because it was coming from a different place. I did not take from the trend. If anything, I created a trend, because they all 80% copied my guitar style and actually overexposed it. But because I keep going to the inner spring, I'm always a step ahead and do something like additional, some little bit of freshness. And if everybody keeps taking from the rock trend, as we, it would have died long time ago. It's a bit like a pond, or, that doesn't get any fresh water. Eventually it dies. If everybody takes from the trend, it dies. But many people, especially the 80s guitarists, they knew that I was getting something from a different source, and so they always took bits and pieces of me, even throughout the 90s and later. And it kept, I'm sure I'm not the only person who does that, but who comes up from the inner self, but it keeps and kept the trend, always with a little bit of freshness alive. And so, otherwise it probably would have been dead a long time ago. And I don't remember your original question, but that's the way I went.
That's all right. I was commenting on writing a book and sharing your experiences. But that's okay.
Yeah.
So I know you have a few dates scheduled towards the end of 2021, and it looks like we're closer to a widespread vaccination. How is the talk with promoters at this point, if any?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that, we had an offer for France Hellfest and Graspop Holland, two of the biggest festivals in Europe, and that was in 2020. It had to be postponed. We are still on the bill for 2021.
Yeah,
and that will be in June 21, and then it will be. Since we did the Revelation album, which never really got promoted because of the virus, it's the set list is becoming a little bit difficult now. I never had a problem with it, but now there is like a hole in the middle, and the agent has been working really hard on putting something together we had to cancel a 5-hour show, program in Japan, the biggest event ever. It would have filled the Budokan, and we prepared for it for a whole year. It had to be cancelled. It was a smack in the face, and then the postponing of the UK tour and the European tour for the Michael Schenker Fest, and then eventually, because now I've done the Michael Schenker 50th anniversary Immortal, performed by the current MSG Michael Schenker Group. That's what I'm going with, and we have special guest Doro Pesh, 4 shows in the UK in 21 October. And then we have the 5 shows in Europe. And as we talk, Russia is coming up. I'm doing interviews with Australia. I've never been to Australia.
Wow.
I'm doing dozens and dozens and dozens of interviews with Australia all of a sudden. I can't believe it. A couple said, if I would have never been, thrash metal would have never existed. I said, what? I'm finding out all of this, while I'm 60 years old. This is unbelievable. When I joined Nuclear Blast, the German record company, and Marco Steiger is the boss of the creator of Nuclear Blast, and he said to me, Michael, if you would have not been, he would have never been, Nuclear Blast would have never been, thrash metal that he was in love with. he would have never started. And I said, you must be joking. And I tell you, I mean, step by step, I get shocked by statements like that, and it just continues. And then Slash and Kirk Hammett and James Hetfield and all of these guys that I don't know. It's just very peculiar.
Well, I'm glad that you're getting the recognition while you're still with us, for sure, right?
Yeah, and I mean, there is a little bit of a saying that I say, if like instant gratification will eventually die, but if you stay true to yourself, it will stay with you forever. And that is exactly what I'm experiencing, because in the middle years, after I declined Ozzy Osbourne, and I mean, if I would have stayed with UFO, it would have been one of the biggest bands in the world. I left them when they reached the peak, and and then the Scorpions found out, and the Matthias couldn't do the Love Drive album, and Rudolph found out, that I was available and asked me if I could help out, because I actually wrote Lights Out when I was 21 in 76. I mean, it became a hit. I ran away. I got scared because I thought the music business wanted to put me in a box and make me create stuff like that around the clock. And, and I wasn't interested in it. I never was chasing what UFO was chasing, or the Scorpions, which was fame and success and money. And, I was just a kid in a sandbox, putting 3 notes together, creating goose pimples. That's what I was happy doing, always, and up to this day. And, awesome. when Rudolph asked me, Michael, can you please help us? We are stuck with Love Drive. I said, okay, send me the songs you need, and I was working on it, came over, I made it a condition. I wanted to be contracted for that album, Love Drive, and I was the 6th member of the band, and for this album, and but they never put the picture of me on the album cover, which is a breach of contract, but I never found out about it until 2015, when I was approached to help the Scorpions with the 2015 Scorpions set box. And when I heard the life of the Love Drive story, I was so disappointed in Rudolph. I mean, I supported Rudolph all my life. I was so happy that with so little talent, he achieved so much. But, it was unbelievable I was opening a can of worms, and I felt like, oh, please help me to close this tin. I want to keep a good memory. When I left when I wanted to, I did with UFO what I wanted to do. I there was no need for me to carry on with the Scorpions, starting from scratch again. I was not chasing what they were chasing. And so, but Rudolph, he already knew. I mean, when America found out that I had joined the Love Drive album, and they all thought that I joined the Scorpions, which was not true. All of America were excited, the business people, the managers, and everybody, and it was the door opening for the Scorpions. I went to America when I was 19 for the first time. The Scorpions never went there until 33 years old, and I was always 7 years younger. Can you imagine a 3-year-old boy and a 10-year-old boy next to each other?
Yeah.
Can you see the difference?
Crazy, yeah.
And so I was 15, they were 21, they were already business people. I was just a kid in the sandbox, just developing and having fun. And so I am convinced it was calculated that when they asked me over, well, especially when they found out the result I produced for the Love Drive album for the remaining songs, it was the only way for them to make it to America, and so they tried to manipulate me, and of course they had a lot of Rudolph, especially over his little brother, his 3-year-old, being 10 years old. I mean, he had control over me in a way, like big people have over children, and so they tried to manipulate me to stay with the Scorpions, but I couldn't. I had to say no. I knew my new chapter had started. I needed to carry on with my own vision. I mean, I declined Ozzy Osbourne. I declined Deep Purple. I declined Motorhead, Ian Hunter, Phil Lynott. I mean, all of these Whitesnakes, all of these big bands, for the only reason to be myself, and to follow my own vision. And the Scorpions in the end got really, really angry and upset. And I'm very, very unhappy that it went that way, because I helped them, and instead they got upset. It's unbelievable, Yeah. But, I'm so glad the Scorpions made it after all, with a few tricks of Rudolph stealing my image, with the flying V and the black and white and whatever. And the Scorpions never knew how to write songs until I joined them when I was 15 years old. I wrote the first song for the Scorpions. I mean, it is unbelievable. They never had a clue how to do it. Rudolph was watching me because I was with Klaus Meine from the Scorpions in Copernicus just before we joined the Scorpions, and Rudolph calculated all of that. He purposely booked a rehearsal studio right next to Klaus and my band, and pretended that their guitarist and singer didn't make it to the rehearsal studio, and they knocked on our door. Basically, literally, they stole us out of our band and put us into their right next door rehearsal studio. And but the drummer was already really good, and the bass player was amazing. And so Klaus and I, we decided to stick with them. But Rudolph watched Klaus and me, like how, every time I was writing something, the way I presented it to Klaus was like, here, Klaus, this is what I have got. Can you sing like this? La, 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 la. And then he took it from there and took it his own way. And Rudolph watched this and watched it and watched it. And he watched me holding my guitar, and he watched everything I did. And he at the end, his whole success is based on what he learned from me, and I must say it's unbelievable shocking to find out that actually discovering later, when they approached me for the 2015 Scorpion set box with a lie of how the Love Tribe album actually came out, I was so disappointed, and I had to decline, and I'm an Ozzy Osbourne fan, I love Ozzy. But and I know that I'm a Randy Rhoads #1 fan. I mean, like his number one guitarist, and he must have always talked about me. So Ozzy called me in the middle of the night when Randy crashed. Michael, can you help us? And I had to decline. I didn't decline straight away, but I was saying to myself, I mean, of course I was tempted, but I was saying to myself, hey, look, you've been with UFO, you left UFO for a reason, you had to fight so hard to get away from the Scorpions, that they, to the point that they actually got angry with me, and ended up, eventually, following my own vision, that. But then Peter Mensch discovered me, who was already managing AC/DC, etc. And he sent me straight to Aerosmith. And I went to Aerosmith. I went like, what the hell am I doing here? I've just done all of this. I mean, it was like a 1-year transition time in '79 when I was so confused. I did not know what to do. I mean, I was really, but eventually, in 1980, I lived with Peter Mensch for 2 years, and Cliff Bernstein was his partner, and they are Metallica management and Def Leppard and all of those big bands, and so he eventually he put so many different versions of the beginning of the Michael Schenker solo career together. It was unbelievable. I even went to Boston when Steven Tyler was sick, and Peter Mensch said to me, "Go to Boston. The rhythm section is ready for you. Tom Hamilton and Joey Kramer." I went, what? So I went there, rehearsed with them, and then there was this guy coming. It was a really big rehearsal studio, and I saw this guy. He looked like the other guitarist from Aerosmith. He turned around, almost running. He must have gone to the hospital to Steven Tyler saying, "Hey, Steven, you must get better. Michael Schenker is stealing our rhythm section." and then, of course, Steven Tyler got better, and then, Aerosmith got back together. And then Rush, which were UFO friends, we toured together. They wanted to help me with my first solo album. Neil Peart and Geddy Lee. They were ready. They invited me to a recording studio in London where they were recording one of their albums, but that never happened. And then eventually Peter Mensch found Simon Phillips and Mo Foster from Jeff Beck, and then Cozy Powell put together a band with Cozy Powell, who just left Rainbow, and Paul Raymond from UFO and Chris Glenn, and so. It just went on and on, Michael Schenker Group and MSG. And then people asked me, like, what is all of this? Michael Schenker Fest and Michael Schenker's Temple of Rock and this and that and the Michael Schenker Group. And I have to say, it's all Michael Schenker Group, because it's always has been my vision, to write from scratch as Michael Schenker. And so everything I've done, even with different titles, I look at them as subtitles, like Michael Schenker's Temple of Rock. That is a Michael Schenker Group, but it includes Herman Revell, Francis Buchholz from the Scorpions, and Doogie White from Rainbow. So that's that chapter. Then Michael Schenker Fest is all the original singers from the 80s, MSG singers from the 80s, singing to Michael's original compositions. And so you can, those categories, subtitles of those different lineups of Michael Schenker Group help me and help the fans to understand what actually happened when. And so, but at the end of the day, even the Michael Schenker 50th anniversary Immortal, and it says performed by the current MSG Michael Schenker Group, because it's always current. You had so many different lineups, so many different band members that people get confused with the different titles and different names. The subtitles help to let people know what is what, when did it happen.
Right. Understood. So we have to wrap it up, Michael, but can you finish off with a message to the fans?
Absolutely. Keep on rocking!
Awesome. Michael, thank you so much. Once again, congratulations on the 50 years of an amazing career, and I hope to see you on stage very soon. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Okay, everyone, thank you for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed this interview with Michael Schenker. The interview is available in many formats: YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. Also, please follow us on Twitter and Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Let's wrap it up with the song Sail the Darkness from Michael Schenker's upcoming album, Immortal. Stay safe, and see you next time!